Welcome to Up Yonda Farm Environmental Education Center's presentation on monarch butterflies. Here in the southeastern Adirondacks in New York State, the monarch butterfly is a common sight during our summer months. We often see this orange, black, and white butterfly moving from flower to flower, pollinating as it sips on nectar each day. If you happen to visit us here in Bolton Landing at the Environmental Education Center, you could adventure into our butterfly garden, where during the summer months, you could be surrounded by dozens of monarchs flying through the air. But these beautiful butterflies don't start out looking just like this. These butterflies actually start out as a very tiny egg. In the picture on the left here, we see one of these monarch eggs. This photo was taken by one of the Up Yonda naturalists and shows the very close up where you can see those ridges right down the side of the egg. These eggs are laid on the underside of a milkweed leaf. Milkweed is a common plant throughout our area and the main plant that monarch butterflies will lay their eggs on. These eggs are so tiny that if we were to take it off the leaf and put it on the backside of a penny, it would just about cover up President Lincoln right here. As I mentioned, milkweed is a common plant here at Up Yonda, and the most common milkweed we find here on the Up Yonda property and throughout our area is the common milkweed. Common milkweed's got broad leaves and pinkish reddish flowers. And this is the plant where we'll see the monarchs often going to, flying to the underside of the leaves and hanging upside down to lay their eggs. Other types of milkweed that monarchs will also use for egg laying and gathering nectar from are the swamp milkweed and butterfly weed. After a short time in the egg, the monarch caterpillar will hatch. Here's a short video to show us just how that process happens. So the monarch butterfly egg is right here, and the caterpillar, or the larva, has developed inside, and the black dot that you see is his head. Now this caterpillar is ready to escape from his egg, so he's eaten a small hole in the egg, and then will continue to eat the egg and make that hole larger until he can get his head out. This isn't a quick process. Once he has gotten that hole big enough, then he can start to climb out. This video has been sped up to 3 times normal speed to save some time, but just to let you know, this whole process of escaping his egg could take up to about 5 minutes. It's not an easy process for this little guy. Notice some of the characteristics. The very dark black head, a clear body, and several sets of legs, and lots of little hairs across the top. He looks very different when he first hatches than he will in just a few short days. This caterpillar pauses for a moment and then he'll turn to face the egg. Once he finds the egg, after looking to the left and to the right, the process of his first meal will begin. This is a long munching process. Where it took him a few days to develop inside of his egg, he's pretty hungry. So he'll start eating this clear egg, occasionally take a break, but go back for seconds and sometimes even thirds. Once he's done, then it's time to move on to the real food for a monarch caterpillar. Not only do the monarch butterflies use the milkweed to lay their eggs on, but the milkweed is the food that these caterpillars love. Right here is a close-up picture of a monarch caterpillar on a milkweed leaf. Notice his antenna, eye spots, and even as we look very close at the leaf, we can see little hairs on there. How is this caterpillar different than the caterpillar you just saw hatch from the egg? This is a good spot to pause the video here for a few concept check questions. Once we have to the caterpillar stage and have hatched out of this little egg, the caterpillar will start quickly growing as it gorges on milkweed. This caterpillar is going to go through 5 stages. We call these stages instars. The first instar is tiny, maybe a little bit bigger than the eraser on your pencil. And notice that this first instar is green. Very different from the caterpillar that we saw hatch. Possibly that green comes from all of the leaves that he's already eaten. Then, as he gets much larger, goes into his second instar, and now we start seeing the yellow, the black, and the white stripes appear. As more milkweed is consumed, the third instar is a little bit bigger, and then as even more, the fourth, and when we get to the fifth and final instar, the caterpillar's last stage of development, it is big and juicy and ready to turn into a butterfly. But for that caterpillar to turn into a butterfly, it needs to find a spot to do it. In this case, this caterpillar has found a branch to attach himself to right here. In other cases, we might find a caterpillar attaching himself to the underside of a milkweed leaf. He was eating milkweed, why not stay there? Sometimes we raise monarchs at home or in our classrooms at school, and that's where we'd see them attach themselves to the underside or maybe even to the top of our hatching containers. To tell us that that caterpillar is ready, he turns into a backwards J. We call this J'ing up. So that caterpillar will turn to a J shape for a little while and then stretch himself out, and the chrysalis will start forming. The chrysalis starts right here at his head and then stretches, continuing up his back until it completely covers that caterpillar's body. Notice the similar colors that we see from when he first started out. Over here, yellows, blacks, and whites. Over here, we've got a little bit of black, yellows, and whites, but now we've got some greens in there. Our caterpillar will be in his chrysalis for just about a week. The chrysalis will turn green and then work its way into a little bit yellow to almost an off-white, and then become opaque where we can start to see some of the monarch colors inside. When that chrysalis becomes crystal clear and we can see those beautiful blacks, oranges, and whites of the monarch wings, we know that we're going to see that butterfly hatching soon. Here, I've got a short video of that monarch hatching and starting to get himself ready for his first flight.
Watching a monarch butterfly emerge from its chrysalis is an amazing sight. Right after emerging, the monarch's abdomen is large and filled with fluid. At first, the monarch's wings are very small. The monarch pumps fluid from its abdomen into its wings, causing them to inflate. Once the wings are fully inflated, the monarch hangs and dries before taking flight. A few hours later, the wings are ready for use.
As soon as those wings are ready for use, the monarch butterfly will fly off looking for food, and that food is going to be pollen from flowers. The cool thing is, as that butterfly moves from flower to flower, it picks up a little bit of pollen as it moves from one flower to the next and transfers that pollen from one flower to another. This way, the butterfly helps as a pollinator, producing new plants in future generations. As we look at this butterfly here, we can see that she has some parts right here. This is her head. Attached to her head are two antennae. Now her head is attached to her thorax, and the thorax is the strongest part of her body. It's the strongest part of her body because all of her other body parts are attached to it. Her abdomen, her forewings, her hind wings, and even all 6 of her legs. All of these parts, the head, the abdomen, forewing, hind wing, and legs are attached to the thorax. One other part that we can see right here is her proboscis. Her proboscis works like a giant straw and can reach deep into flowers to suck out the nectar. This is basically her tongue, which is coiled up when it's not in use. So here is her head, and remember, attached to her head are her antenna and her proboscis. We even find her eyes on her head. Her head is attached to the thorax, along with the legs, the abdomen, her hind wings, and her forewings. Monarch butterflies have 4 total wings. In the last slide, I mentioned it was a her. How do we know if a monarch butterfly is a male or female? This butterfly here is very similar to that butterfly that I described as her. A female monarch butterfly has very thick wing veins. Look at how thick these black wing veins are on the butterfly on the left compared to the butterfly on the right. The butterfly on the left is a female. The butterfly on the right is a male. He has very thin black veins in his wings, but he also has these 2 dots on his hind wings. This tells us that he is a male butterfly. Male butterflies have thin wing veins and black spots on their hind wings. Female butterflies have very thick wing veins and no black spots. A big question up here is, where do monarch butterflies go in the winter? Normally, in New York, the ground is covered in several feet of snow all winter long. If the ground's covered in snow, there's no flowers for the butterflies to get nectar from. Plus, butterflies would freeze in our cold, cold temperatures. Do you know where these butterflies fly off to in the winter? If you said Mexico, you were correct. Our butterflies here in upstate New York will fly down south to the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve in central Mexico for the winter, a place where it remains pretty warm all year long. We also have the butterflies from the Great Plains, the central states, and even the southeastern states that'll join those butterflies down there. The butterflies that are to the west of the Rocky Mountains will migrate to the California coast, a place where it's also not too cold during the winter months. Here is a short video showing us the flyway for the monarch butterfly. This is where the monarchs will end up, in Mexico, and this is where they're going to start out. The yellow line begins at our butterfly garden here at Up Yonda Farm on the shores of Lake George in northeastern New York. These butterflies will fly anywhere from 50 to 150 miles every day. So as we follow this yellow line, we're working our way out of New York, across Pennsylvania, and going down the west side of the Appalachian Mountains till we get to the Gulf of Mexico. We've marked this spot here at the Gulf of Mexico as a fork in the road, where the butterflies can go one of two directions. Some butterflies are going to want to take a shortcut and have the easiest way to get to Mexico. So they're going to fly across the water of the Gulf of Mexico. Since there's not a lot of islands, these butterflies will land on oil rigs that are scattered throughout the Gulf and work their way all the way over to the Gulf Coast in Mexico before they head inland up into the mountains for the butterfly reserve. Other butterflies won't fly across the water. They'll take at the fork in the road and stay over land. They'll move across Louisiana and Texas and down the Gulf Coast all the way into central Mexico before they begin their journey up into the mountains to the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve. This is a thick, lush forest that is protected, as monarchs will migrate there every year. As we see here in this photo, the monarch butterflies number in the millions. Here's another photo from the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve. Just how many butterflies do you think are on this one tree right here? At Up Yonda Farm Environmental Education Center and our partner schools, we participate in the University of Kansas's Monarch Watch. Monarch Watch helps track these wonderful pollinators from where their summer grounds are all the way down to Mexico. It's hard to tell one butterfly from the next. We don't know if they have names, and they all kind of do look alike. So what we do is we use these tiny little stickers right here that have 3 letters and 3 numbers, and we put that little sticker on the hind wing of the butterfly. We can see the sticker on the butterfly right here. So before we release our monarchs here at Up Yonda Farm Environmental Education Center, we put a sticker on each one of them. And that sticker works like a license plate. So as these butterflies fly off, if other monarch lovers and monarch observers happen to find them and take note of what their letters and numbers are, they can put it into the website for monarchwatch.org. That helps the scientists at the University of Kansas track the paths that these butterflies take on their trip down to Mexico each year. Up Yonda Farm has even received a certificate from Monarch Watch because one of our butterflies flew almost 3,000 miles to make it all the way down to the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve. Thank you for joining Up Yonda Farm Environmental Education Center for our presentation on monarch butterflies. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.